pinning. That's all there is. And you always pin from the top down. Remember we did notches to where it extended, right? So that way I will know where this is going to be connecting. Remember, I'm interested, not that the seam allowances match, I'm interested that my seams match at the top. And since you guys have walked your patterns, you know for a fact this fits properly. Okay, so there is like no questions about that. When you pin, you always pin perpendicular to the seam. And for the righties, it's best that the head is on the right side. For the lefties, you can put it on the left side, right? Unfortunately, machines are done only for righties, okay? So the guideline is on the right side. There is nothing that we can do about that. Okay, so here we go. I measure this, I walk my pattern, so I know for a fact it's going to measure exact from top to bottom. So I can very comfortably go ahead and pin the very bottom. I don't know about you guys, but when I eat my rice and peas, I do the easy part first and leave the complicated for the end. So I know that the notch where we flare it out is going to measure exactly the same. So I'm going to pin that. You don't need to have 11 million pins, okay? So on a straight line like this, I probably can put maybe 2-3 pins in the middle, right? And I know that, oh, we haven't with you guys. I will show you how to press the bus cup. Okay? So then I can go back and keep moving into my notches. Look, my notches match perfectly, right? I walked it, so it should match perfectly. Then I kept going, and then the curves might change. But right now we are on the area of the princess seam that it was the old dart. As we get into the curve of the breast, this is where the issue will come up. So I'm going to continue right here and make sure, close up, see the edges of the fabric should match. Okay, so then I might need another pin to make sure that the edges of my fabrics match. Because if they don't match, when you sew it, one of the sides of the seam allowance will be wider than the other. And the idea is that you have the same seam allowance on both sides. So now that I pinned up to there, now I'm going to start from the top down. And be careful, because this is very on the bias. What happens on the bias? Stretches, right? So you can very easily manipulate it to ease it into place. Okay? So don't just pull it tight. See, my notches match perfectly, almost. And I'm going to show you how to fix that. See that this is a little bit bigger? I take the pin off, and then I make it fit. Now here is the problem. See that one side looks a little bigger than the other? That is not going to fit? Well, you need to make it fit. Okay? So we already did it, and we know that it fits. So it's all about accommodating. So whatever happens outside of the line where you're going to sew, that's not your problem. Okay? But if you pull it like this and you have all of that sticking out, then you actually take in the cavity of the breast. You see that? So I need to always be lining up my seam allowances, but I am going to be pinning on the actual seam. And I'm going to make all of that fit very nicely in place. You will see. Now, I want to show you on the sewing part because your fabrics are going to be fighting you as you're sewing it, and then you're going to find out things after you finish that it didn't work out. So see where the pin is? It actually is flat. I don't care what happens outside. See how it's ruffling? Okay? So after this is pinned, I'm going to stitch at 1/2 inch seam allowance because that's what you did on your pattern, right? And I might see a little bit of the other side. I'm going to line it up as I go along, okay? So make sure you have your threads in the back when you start, and I'm going to stitch at 1/2 inch. I don't know who's doing this. I want you guys to use your knee, and especially on this exercise, okay? Don't sew over the pins. You might damage your fabric, and maybe a piece will fly and get your eye, but it doesn't matter. You have another eye. No, be careful. So see, as I go, I line up the edge. See how it ruffles here on this side? Don't worry. You are interested only on the seam. So that's why I make you do the exercise of the inner curve. Now be careful what happens underneath. Underneath should be flat because your fabric will try to do that and you're going to end up sewing it, right? And then you're going to have to take it apart. Make sure that you keep the bottom and the top flat where you're sewing. This is really the only line where I'm interested. So I line up the edges. So if you sewed it, see how it creates a pleat underneath? I don't want to sew it in there. I need to line up my fabrics flat. So if you have a lot of fabric left over at the bottom when you finish sewing, it means that you didn't pin it correctly because you walk your pattern, correct? Yes? Anybody awake? Thank you. So when you press your seam allowance, the both sides should be exactly the same amount, right? And you notice how I'm using slowly and lifting it, right? Because you shouldn't have a corner. We blended in every corner, remember? So this should be sewn also softly rounded. So you see, it matches at the very top, and I don't have any pinches on the seam. Yes? Nice? Okay. Now, if you look at it inside here, we're gonna press it with the cup out. See how it's ruffling? Okay, remember what we did when it was ruffling? Yeah. We cut triangles, right? So, rule of thumb, whenever you have an inner curve and you're going to press it, you snip. So I have an inner curve on this side. So this side, I'm going to just do a few snips. But then on the other side, I'm going to cut triangles. And that's where the sharpness of the curve of the breast. In the back, you're gonna have the same thing going on the shoulder blade, because we also have the princess seam going to the armhole, correct? Okay, so we can go to the iron, and I'm just gonna show you this one. I'm gonna sew the whole dress, but you guys don't have to be staring at me while I'm doing this, okay? So we have a straight line from the notch of the flare down, right? So this we can press on the table. That's really the only thing that we can press on the table. Everything else, we're gonna use the hem, okay? So here, I'm gonna place it like this, and I'm going to make sure that I don't create pleats anywhere else. So here we have the curve into the waist. We have the curve out from the waist going up. That's why I'm moving it like this. I'm gonna press from the top to the bust point, because that's also a fairly straight line. See that this should measure 1 inch, because it's ½ an inch on each side, correct?
Yes.
Seam allowance to seam allowance. Now, to press the bust, I'm gonna get the hem and put it sideways like this. And I'm gonna pull it tight, so only the seam of the bust gets pressed. Sometimes you need to press your seams open and then press it from the right side. I'm gonna do it. Okay? So here I'm gonna press. And then here, I'm gonna do the same thing, but on the right side. Make sure that we don't create any pleats there, which apparently I did one when I pressed it the other way. The iron could be your best friend or your worst enemy. So learn how to use it, because it can really fix some problems, but it can also create other ones. So see, we'll have a dress form, but see how he has the nice shape of the breast? And now we need to do the 7 panels. Yep.